if President Biden takes any blame for any of this, including record high inflation. Watch this.
Does the president then acknowledge any responsibility for the inflation that we're seeing now based on the decisions that he's made when he came into office?
Well, I would say, as the president has talked about quite a bit, there are a range of factors, including the pandemic, the impact on the supply chains. We've also seen, given energy is such a significant driver of this data, an increase in energy prices over the last month plus since the invasion of Ukraine.
But if you take responsibility for his decisions, like some say the American Rescue Plan boosted demand when it didn't need to, Larry Summers was one of those.
Well, the alternative would have been that we would have gone into a massive economic downward spiral, and many Americans would have not had enough food to put on the table. So we chose the other path.
Joining me right now is Georgia Congressman Buddy Carter. He is a member of the Energy and Commerce Committee. He is also a member of the GOP's Doctors Caucus. He's a former pharmacist himself. Congressman, it's good to see you. Thanks very much for being here. So your take on what you just heard. Obviously, the Biden administration is blaming everybody but its policy, even though we have the inflation timeline here. And when Joe Biden walked into the White House last year in January, inflation was literally at 1.4%. And you look at all of his moves in terms of spending in March of 21, signing into law the COVID relief package, inflation jumps. And then later in the year, the Democrats pushing their spending package, which was $5 trillion spending package, really, but they said it was $3.9 trillion. Inflation jumps up to 5.4%. That was July. Oh, by November of last year, Biden signed in the $1 trillion infrastructure package, taking inflation up to 6.8%. And here we are today, sitting at 8.5% on consumer inflation, 10.6%, above 11%, rather, on producer inflation. Congressman, do you think that the White House is going to acknowledge its policy as one of the reasons for this spike in inflation, costing American families so much more money?
No, I do not. I mean, they're going to do everything they can to deflect blame. But let's face it, it is the policies of the Biden administration that has caused this record inflation, the highest inflation that we've had in 40 years. Try as he may, Joe Biden can try and blame Putin for this. But let's face it, Putin wouldn't be in Ukraine if it weren't for the weak leadership of Joe Biden's administration and the worst foreign relations debacle in the history of this country in Afghanistan. Let's face it, if he wants to blame it on big oil, but he's attacked big oil and tried to crush big oil for the first year that he was in office. He wants to blame it on COVID, and yet he continues with all these pandemic-related rules and regulations, including wearing masks on airplanes. I fly a lot, twice a week at least, and I can tell you, people don't want to be wearing masks on airplanes. Flight attendants don't want it, and yet they continue on with this. It is the policies of the administration that are causing this. Look, elections have consequences. Policies have consequences.
Yeah, well, that's what I always say. Bad policy equals bad outcomes. And boy, oh boy, have we seen a lot of bad outcomes over the last year. But I'm glad you brought up COVID, because now the CDC is extending Biden's travel mask mandate for another 15 days, as you just noted. It was supposed to expire this coming Monday. Congressman, where are we on COVID? You've got the CDC extending the mask mandate, but at the same time, the CDC is taking away Title 42 at the border. I don't understand.
This is liberal hypocrisy. I mean, here we are. You're going to continue with the mask mandate on airplanes. But as you point out, at the southern border, they're coming across unvaccinated, untested. And then we do away with Title 42. And you can expect a higher influx of immigrants now as a result of doing away with Title 42. That needs to be extended. And we need to continue to impose that and enforce that. And yet this administration turns a blind eye to it. It is ridiculous. And to hear Dr. Fauci, who needs to resign, the American people don't have faith in him. They don't have confidence in him. And the confidence in the CDC, which I think is a great organization, however, it is eroding as well.
Yeah, well, Congressman, before you go, real quick, a lot of issues here on the agenda. You're an elected official. What are you going to do about it?
Well, what we have to do, we're going to take back the House in the fall elections. I think we're going to do very well. We've got to work hard. We haven't won anything yet. I get it. I understand that. But when we do, we're going to be prepared. We have a commitment with America. We've got task forces that are working right now so that we can be prepared when we take office, introducing legislation that's going to change the trajectory of this country.
Okay, terrific. We'll be watching that. Congressman, thanks very much for joining me this morning. Good to see you, Buddy Carter, joining us on this agenda.